3, 2, 1. And now it's just time for a quick bit of news. The Central Coast Mariners have won the grand final, although police say it's too difficult to tell if there's been rioting and looting in Wyong, but they've arrested some young poor people just in case. Director George Miller has released another insight into our likely future with his latest instalment of the Mad Max franchise. And a portrait of King Charles has been unveiled in the UK featuring red motifs to remind the monarch of what colour blood should be without centuries of inbreeding. Australia's richest woman Gina Reinhardt is upset with her portrait, which I must say is awful, but when you look at what the artist had to work with, could still be considered a masterpiece. Then again, the only person interested in seeing Reinhardt hanging publicly is Rose Hancock Porteous. Victorian police have been accused of racism after a presentation to prison staff about their approach to law enforcement, which is only news if you're white. Pro-Palestinian protest camps continue at universities across Australia despite demands from administrators. Parents have expressed support for their children, not because of their dedication to the cause, they're just happy to have them out of the house. Peter Dutton has again pushed the idea of nuclear power, saying it's done wonders for his home planet, although the best green alternative would be if we could somehow harness the power of outrage generated by Sky News. Lisa Wilkinson is pursuing Bruce Lohman for damages, which marks the first and likely last time any woman will ever try to pursue Bruce Lohman. 670 deaths have so far been recorded across Papua New Guinea after landslides, resulting in bipartisan offers of support for Australian politicians worried that it might affect their mining stock portfolio. The people of Papua New Guinea have resorted to using their hands to try to move earth in order to find people trapped under the rubble, and BHP has said if you find any copper, diamonds or coal while you're doing so, to please put it aside for them. Pope Francis is under fire for alleged homophobic slurs, and I for one am shocked, as the Catholic Church has always been so good to the queer community. Musician Nicki Minaj has been detained at Amsterdam airport for possession of marijuana, and at this point you've got to think it's easier for the sniffer dogs to find people in Amsterdam who don't smell of cannabis. The French government has lifted New Caledonia's emergency state to merde, although the French should be proud as the New Caledonians are riding like real French people. A British equestrian rider, Georgie Campbell, has died during an event, and to make matters worse, she'd only broken her leg, and the marshals did the rest. Rishi Sunak has sent a message to the Labour Party after announcing a general election. He's told Keir Starmer that the bins go out on Thursday and Fancy Feast gives Larry the cat the trots. Sunak has said that his party is behind him, but considering he couldn't even find one member to stand behind him with an umbrella, I have my doubts. Keir Starmer is the current favourite to win the next UK election. He's the son of a toolmaker, although he wasn't described as a toolmaker until after Keir's birth. Rishi Sunak has raised the prospect of introducing national service, although he refused to rule out which nation they'd be serving. Aston Martin has opened a 66-storey residential block in Miami. The units are overpriced, lack storage, and the 0 to 100 speed leaves a lot to be desired. 15 people have been killed in deadly storms across the United States, and I find it interesting that these people really do believe that God hates gay people, while sending tornado after tornado down the Bible Belt. US law enforcement agencies have pledged to prove they're not racist by shooting some unarmed white people for a change. And Donald Trump's campaign has been criticised as a promotional video of the candidate featured Nazi overtones, which Trump has denied, and considering there were no spelling mistakes, does lend some credibility. Some Donald Trump supporters are now wearing adult nappies in a sign of solidarity with their embattled messiah after rumours that he wears nappies, which means that his bowel movements are the only thing he handles with poise. The final arguments in the trial of Donald Trump have gone ahead, followed by the jury resting, and considering everything they've had to hear about Trump's sex life, they're going to need much more than a rest. Those 12 jurors might be the first people to follow Trump's advice of drinking bleach. Donald Trump was booed by crowds at a libertarian event. He did go on to thank his supporters, but left out the biggest supporter of his campaign, the Dunning-Kruger effect. Donald Trump may not have won the libertarian nomination, but true to form, he did come before Stormy Daniels. Israel has tested an experimental wellness missiles on refugee centres in Rafah. Sadly, the test failed after they discovered that C4 is not a vitamin. But for the sake of thoroughness, they plan to continue testing. Israel has lashed out at the UN, the ICC and the ICJ as anti-Semitic, forgetting the reasons that these organisations exist. Israel has pledged to put a friendly face on its siege of Gaza by adding googly eyes and smiley faces to all the munitions that they're dropping. Israel's latest strike has killed an estimated 45 people in a refugee centre. Israel claims that the strike killed 2 suspected Hamas members, which is the equivalent of going after sex offenders by blowing up Belmore Oval just because the Bulldogs are playing. 3 nations have moved to formally recognise Palestine, and Israel has promptly said, "I'm not your friend anymore, and you're not coming to any of my parties." The Israeli Prime Minister has admitted that something went horribly wrong with their latest strike in Rafah. The world found out about it. And finally, Rupert Murdoch, aged 93, is once again engaged to be married, which proves 3 things. Some people will do anything for money, only the good die young, and Satan will never back out of a deal.